We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Ukraine claims a massive drone attack on Russian air bases. Moscow calls Ukrainian attacks in 5 regions a terrorist act as both sides gear up for talks in Istanbul today. Several people suffer burn injuries in Colorado. FBI calls it a terror attack against demonstrators seeking the release of Israeli hostages. 1 person taken into custody. India's global outreach on Operation Sindoor continues. All-party delegations engage with key figures in multiple nations, highlighting India's continued fight against terrorism. President of Paraguay, Santiago Peña Palacios, to arrive in India for the first time, will hold talks with Prime Minister Modi and to review the entire gamut of bilateral ties. Multiple deaths reported after floods, landslides devastate northeast India as monsoon arrival spells mayhem. Weatherman predicts more thunderstorms and rainfall across Delhi and the national capital region. And in sports, Shreyas Iyer passed the Punjab Kings into IPL 2025 finals with statement win against Mumbai in the qualifier too. Well, on to the details now. On the eve of peace talks, Ukraine and Russia sharply ramped up the conflict with one of the biggest drone battles since February 2022. At least 7 people were killed and 69 injured when a highway bridge in Russia's Bryansk region, neighboring Ukraine, was blown up over a passenger train heading to Moscow with 388 people on board. Ukraine attacked Russian nuclear-capable long-range bombers at a military base deep in Siberia on Sunday. Ukraine's Domestic Intelligence Service, the SBU, acknowledged it carried out the attack, codenamed Operation Spider's Web, planned for more than a year and a half. As per Ukraine, a total of 41 Russian warplanes were hit. Russia launched 472 drones at Ukraine overnight and also launched 7 missiles. Well, after the attacks, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed delight over the drone attack.
Brilliant operation was conducted on the enemy's territory against military targets only, against equipment that was used to deliver strikes at Ukraine. Russia has had very tangible losses.
Also, Ukrainian aviation expert Valery Romanenko called Ukraine's drone attack on Russian air bases a black day for Russian aviation.
Russians will now try to replace the aviation component with ground-based systems. For example, the Iskander ballistic missile. They may also use MiG-31 planes, which can carry the supersonic Kinzhal missiles and have not yet been attacked. They may use them. They will use ballistic Iskanders, and there is also a cruise missile version of the Iskander. They can launch both ballistic and cruise Iskander missiles from the same platform. They also have leftovers from the Russian Black Sea Fleet. The Black Sea Fleet, which has not yet been sunk.
Meanwhile, Russian delegation arrived on Sunday evening in Istanbul, Turkey, ahead of a second round of peace talks. Ukraine's Defense Minister Rustem Umerov would meet Russian officials for talks on Monday. The first round of the talks more than a week ago yielded the biggest prisoner exchange of the war, but no sense of any consensus on how to halt the fighting. Amid talk of peace, though, there was much war. The two sides will in Turkey present their respective documents outlining their ideas for peace terms, though it is clear that after 3 years of intense conflict. In June last year, Putin set out his opening terms for an immediate end to the war. Ukraine must drop its NATO ambitions and withdraw all of its troops from the entirety of the territory of 4 Ukrainian regions claimed and mostly controlled by Russia. Well, amid the build-up to the talks, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also spoke to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio on Sunday regarding the peace talks. The U.S. State Department noted that the call was at Russia's request. Rubio reiterated U.S. President Donald Trump's call for continued direct talks between Russia and Ukraine to achieve a lasting peace. And a proposal by U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff is being worked out from all sides for ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. In a joint statement, Egypt and Qatar said on Sunday they are continuing efforts to converge views and overcome disagreements to reach a Gaza ceasefire. Hamas also expressed its readiness to immediately start a round of indirect negotiations to reach an agreement on points of contention. More than 30 Palestinians were killed and nearly 170 injured on Sunday in South Gaza near a food distribution site, as per its health ministry. It also said Israeli soldiers fired on people trying to collect aid and Israel denied it. But the US-based Gaza Humanitarian Foundation denied the incident and said food was handed out without incident on Sunday at the distribution point in Rafah and there were no deaths or injuries. GHF released undated video to support its statement. It showed dozens of people gathering around piles of boxes. While the Israel Defense Forces released drone footage purportedly supporting and showing Hamas gunmen firing at the crowds, asserting that the incident was a deliberate effort to sabotage humanitarian efforts. Israel's military said that findings from an initial inquiry indicated soldiers had not fired on civilians while they were near or within the aid distribution site. And U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping will speak soon to iron out trade issues, including a dispute over critical minerals, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Sunday. Trump on Friday accused China of breaching a Geneva deal by withholding key exports. Bessent warned China's actions hurt not just the U.S. but also allies like India and Europe. While no call is scheduled, officials expect one imminently. White House advisor Kevin Hassett echoed that optimism. But Beijing hit back on Monday, fiercely denying any violation, calling U.S. claims bogus and contrary to the facts. And the Federal Bureau of Investigation is investigating a targeted terror attack where multiple people were set on fire Sunday afternoon near Pearl Street Mall in Boulder, Colorado. Multiple people were injured, one critically, when an attacker used an incendiary device on demonstrators who were marching to buoy awareness of hostages held by Hamas militants in Gaza. Witnesses said the suspect threw Molotov cocktails that burned some or all of the victims who were part of a march for Israeli hostages. Police in Boulder said a male suspect was taken into custody after the attack that left multiple people with burns. Police did not immediately identify the man taken into custody. FBI Director Kash Patel said the agency was aware of and fully investigating the targeted terror attack. Patel described the incident as a targeted terror attack. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser said it appeared to be a hate crime given the group that was targeted, but Boulder Police Chief Red Fern stressed it was too soon to speculate about the motive. The Mexican President, Claudia Sheinbaum, voted on Sunday in Mexico City in the country's first ever judicial elections, part of an overhaul of the nation's judiciary. The vote will elect 2,600 judges and magistrates, including all Supreme Court justices, and is part of a reform pushed by former President Andres Manuel López Obrador and his protege and successor, Sheinbaum. López Obrador and Sheinbaum say the election will root out corruption in a flawed judiciary and instead allow people to decide who should be a judge. Opponents say the overall risk removing checks and balances on the ruling Morena party by appointing judges friendly to their cause and also allowing organized crime groups greater influence over the judicial system by running their own candidates. And South Koreans will head to the polls on Tuesday to choose their next leader, following nearly 6 months of political turmoil, uncertainty and deep division. The candidates of the South Korean presidential election are making efforts to attract young voters through digital campaigns. With just days left until the ballot day, candidates are doing live streams and short-form video clips to reach out to the voters under 30, which comprises over 20% of the electorate. Polls indicate that Lee Jae-myung, the Democratic Party's presidential candidate, holds a substantial lead in the election, outpacing key rivals Kim Moon-soo of People Power Party and Lee Jun-seok of the New Reform Party. This election seems more crucial since the Korea has been teetering between temporary leaders for months while navigating Yoon's impeachment trial. And Liberal Warsaw Mayor Rafał Zurowski declared a premature victory in Poland's election on Sunday after an exit poll showed him with a razor-thin lead. However, the mood among Zurowski's supporters shifted from celebration to concern as later polls indicated that Conservative candidate Karol Nawrocki was likely to win. An exit poll by Ipsos for broadcasters TVN, TVP and Polsat showed Zurowski of the ruling centralist Civic Coalition winning 50.3% of ballots. Nawrocki, backed by nationalist Law and Justice, was at 49.7%. Official results were expected on Monday, with the late poll combining early results and exit surveys to be released overnight, though it has a 2-point margin of error. Speaking at an election night event for his supporters, Zurowski vowed to be the president for all Polish people.
I will unite, I will build, I will truly be the president of all Polish women and men. I will be a president. We will make Poland great, prosperous for everyone to embark on this journey to the future. I promise you that.
And Romania's defeated far-right candidate George Simeon joined his celebrations after a late poll showed nationalist Karol Nawrocki leading the presidential race. Simeon called the result a huge victory for Europe and Christianity.
It will be a huge victory for Europe and a huge victory for Christianity. We are very, very delighted that the Polish people didn't believe in the biggest campaign I ever saw of fake news. He was attacked, not only through normal campaign measures, by a whole apparatus coordinated at international level. Karol Nawrocki is a fighter, and he will fight for the Polish people, and we are very proud to stand alongside him.
Well, around 1,000 people took part in a silent march across Liberty Bridge in Budapest on Sunday, with many taping their mouths shut to protest a proposed bill targeting foreign-funded media and civil society groups. The demonstrators used the symbolic gesture to oppose legislation. The bill, expected to come to a vote by June 10th, is supported by Prime Minister Viktor Orban's ruling Fidesz party. It would allow the government to label and potentially shut down organizations receiving foreign support if deemed a threat to Hungary's interest or cultural identity. The proposal has faced strong criticism from media, think tanks and right groups who see it as a move to suppress dissent, sparking several recent protests. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Prime Minister Modi to deliver keynote address in New Delhi for 81st IATA summit, showcasing India's rising role in air travel. Asian markets cautious as tariff uncertainty looms and key US jobs data awaited. And in sports, India's D. Gukesh beats world number 1 Magnus Carlsen in classical contest for the first time in his career.
US launch a bombing campaign against Iran. The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
Save your.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, global aviation leaders are in New Delhi for the 81st IATA Annual General Meeting and World Air Transport Summit. Hosted by Indigo, the event marks India's growing influence in aviation, with Prime Minister Modi set to deliver the keynote address.
The global aviation spotlight turns to India as the world's airline leaders gather in New Delhi for the 81st IATA Annual General Meeting and the World Air Transport Summit. Hosted by Indigo and held for the first time in India since 1983, this landmark event takes place from June 1st to 3rd, bringing together more than 1,700 participants from CEOs and policymakers to media from around the world.
We have over 1,700 delegates from all across the world, includes airlines and many of the other players in the aviation ecosystem who are participating, delegates from over 100 countries. And IATA has also updated its reference to India. It is now the third largest aviation market in the world.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi will deliver the keynote address, underscoring the country's growing importance on the global aviation map. The World Air Transport Summit, following the AGM, will dive into the future of flight, addressing key issues like sustainability, innovation, and connectivity in an ever-changing world.
We're seeing the emergence of a stronger aviation sector in India. As I mentioned, on the back of emergence of stronger airlines within the country, the growth of connectivity, the growth of the network that Indians can connect to the rest of the world, to other parts of the country. All of that is significant, and we are also seeing significant increase in the airport infrastructure as well.
India's aviation industry is soaring. It supports nearly 370,000 direct jobs and contributes $5.6 billion to the economy. Add in tourism and indirect impact, and that number climbs to a staggering 7.7 million jobs and $53.6 billion, making up 1.5% of India's GDP.
As the global aviation industry charts its own course for the future, all eyes are on New Delhi. With a record partnership and high-level dialogue, India isn't just hosting the conversation, it's helping to lead it. From tradition to transformation, India welcomes the future of aviation here at the Bharat Mandapam. With camera person Anil Thakur, this is Tapush Bhattacharya for DD India from Delhi.
And as part of India's continued efforts under Operation Sindoor and in line with India's principled and resolute stance against terrorism, 7 all-party delegations are conveying to the world India's strong message of zero tolerance towards terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. All-party delegation led by Member of Parliament Baijunath Jay Panda met with Mohammad Kouane, Chairman of the Committee on Foreign Affairs, Cooperation and the National Community Abroad in the Algerian Parliament on Sunday. The delegation discussed the need for strong and determined measures against terrorism. The delegation appreciated Algeria's unwavering pledge for justice. Another all-party parliamentary delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Ravi Shankar Prasad met with UK Shadow Foreign Secretary Preeti Patel and a team to share India's firm resolve in combating cross-border terrorism. They also highlighted how Operation Sindoor exemplifies the new normal set by India in this ongoing effort. The delegation also interacted with representatives of Indian diaspora at India House in London on Sunday. They reaffirmed India's united stance and unwavering commitment to combating terrorism in all its forms and manifestations and underlined the readiness of India to continue to decisively punish any and all our acts of terror. The high-level delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Sanjay Kumar Jha interacted at the India House with the 15-member National Defence College delegation from New Delhi visiting on a foreign country study tour to Malaysia. The delegation also interacted with S.P. Narayanaswamy, a veteran of the Indian National Army and a member of the Balak Sena of the INA. The delegation expressed deep gratitude for his contribution. The multi-party parliamentary delegation led by Member of Indian Parliament Supriya Sule concluded their visit to Ethiopia on Sunday evening. The delegation in Addis Ababa held rich, intense and fruitful interactions with Ethiopian dignitaries, member of media, academia, civil society, think tanks as well as the Indian community in Ethiopia. During the meetings, the Indian delegation conveyed in one voice India's zero-tolerance policy towards cross-border terrorism and briefed about developments since the heinous terror attacks in Pahalgam. The Ethiopian side emphasized its own zero-tolerance policy against terrorism and stressed that terrorism must be condemned. The delegation appreciated the solidarity shown by the Ethiopian leadership in the aftermath of the Pahalgam attack and thanked for the support. Multi-party Indian delegation led by Dr. Shrikant Shinde interacted with members of the Indian community in Liberia. The delegation members conveyed the collective will of India to fight terrorism in all its forms and manifestations and the support received from the international community in this endeavour. They also appreciated the diaspora's role in strengthening India's friendship with Liberia. And President of Paraguay, Santiago Peña Palacios, will pay a state visit to India from 2nd to 4th of June. The visiting president will be accompanied by a high-level delegation. The state visit of President Peña will be his first visit to India and only the second visit by President of Paraguay. During the visit, President Peña will hold talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi and review the entire gamut of bilateral relations. The visiting President Peña will also meet his Indian counterpart, Draupadi Murmu. The state visit of President Peña will provide an opportunity for the leaders to undertake a comprehensive review of bilateral ties as well as to discuss regional and international issues of mutual interest. Well, moving on, the southwest monsoon's dramatic onset in northeast India has left a trail of destruction, claiming multiple lives and impacting over thousands of people across 5 states. Over the past 3 days, relentless rains have unleashed flash floods and landslides in Assam, Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur and Tripura, collapsing buildings, washing away roads and displacing thousands. The Indian Meteorological Department has issued red alerts across the region, warning of further downpours that could intensify the crisis. Rescue efforts are being hindered by continued continuous rain and damaged infrastructure. Meanwhile, the India Meteorological Department has forecast continued weather disturbances, including thunderstorms and rainfall across Delhi and the national capital region till Tuesday. Delhi woke up on Monday to partly cloudy skies and a minimum temperature of 27.2 degrees centigrade, just slightly above the seasonal average. This continues a pattern of abnormally wild conditions in May. The capital has so far been spared the intense heat waves typically associated with this time of the year. And in business news, Asian share markets made a wary start to this week on Monday as investors navigated the shifting stance of White House tariff policy while awaiting key U.S. job data and a widely expected cut in European interest rates. There were little obvious reaction to President Donald Trump's threat late on Friday to double tariffs on imported steel and aluminium to 50% beginning on June 4th, a sudden twist that drew the ire of European Union negotiators. S&P 500 eased 0.2% and Nasdaq futures lost 0.3%. The S&P climbed 6.2% in May, while the Nasdaq rallied 9.6% on hopes final import levies will be far lower than the initial sky-high levels. And in sports, Shreyas Iyer led from the front with an unbeaten 87 of 41 as Punjab Kings booked their place in the final of IPL 2025 against Royal Challengers Bengaluru. Punjab, in fact, chased down 204 with an over to spare in the qualifier 2 against Mumbai. Josh Inglis laid the foundation with a whirlwind 21 ball 38, smashing 20 off and over from Jasprit Bumrah. Meanwhile, Nehal Vadera also hit 48 during his 84-run stand with Shreyas. Earlier, Tilak Verma and Suryakumar Yadav played crucial knocks of 44 apiece as Mumbai posted 203 for 6 and 20 yards. Namandi's 37 of 18 balls towards the end played a huge role in helping Mumbai go past the 200-run mark. This also marks the first time Mumbai Indians have not been able to defend a score of 200 plus. Well, world champion D. Gukesh secured a statement victory in the 6th round of Norway chess, defeating former world champion Magnus Carlsen in classical time control for the first time in his career. The Indian teenager was playing with the white pieces. He held firm under pressure and capitalized on a rare blunder by Norwegian grandmaster in the endgame, converting it into a memorable win. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.